All right, everybody, quick and dirty thing I want to tell you. I'm going to start on the canopy next, but there is no interior on the canopy, no interior colors. So what I'm going to do is turn this over and give this a quick shot with the airbrush. Basically so that when I glue this onto my clear pieces, whenever those happen, I will have an interior shade that at least approximates the interior of the Sonia. Now, this isn't perfect, but it's better than white. And so I'm just covering this, making sure this side will be good. And then the edges I can color. I think that's everybody. Make sure I got it all covered. Yeah, that should be good. Now, this thing is hopefully ready to cut up. And then when you cut it up, it won't look, you won't have white on the other side. Just something that had to be done and just realized it. So that's a real quick and dirty thing I want to do before I start the canopy. You'll have to excuse that hissing in the background. I'm watering my yard. What I've done now is I've cut these out carefully, and you see there's that inside that I painted, and that looks just fine. I'm going to bring this over here, maybe it'd be easier to see. So all of these have been painted, and they have the green color on the inside, which is just fine. The other thing is that I found these really thin pieces of plastic that actually came with, of all things, these are part of a windshield chip in your windshield fixing thing I found, on Amazon or something. I ordered to fix a chip in the windshield, and a lot of the components came with this really thin stuff. This stuff is lovely. It's super thin, but yet it holds its shape. I think it's going to work great for all these components. So the next step, I also painted all these inside pieces. So you can't tell, but I painted them all on the inside so that they were white, of course, and I edged everything. So now everything's ready to go. I am gonna make a copy of this piece. This is the part that might be the hardest, because this is the part that goes around the front. But the rest of these are all things I think will work fine. The question is, how do you attach the pieces of paper to these pieces of plastic? I've used the Alien's tacky glue, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Someone mentioned to me on the Paper Modeler site at a meeting we just had, use contact cement. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and spray these with contact cement, put them on here, see how they go, and then what I'll do is just cut out the edges, and then you'll have these pieces with the glass in them. So I'm going to try that and see if that works. Hopefully that will work great, and we can come back and show you at a later date. Because man, that thing is really looking good, and I really can't wait to get the canopy on there. Okay, everybody, so I'm going to take this upstairs and copy it, but see, I glued them on there, and I don't know how long to let them dry. I'll probably just let them dry overnight. I'm a little nervous to start cutting them apart, but there they are. Oh yeah, let's go over here to actually see it. Move this out of the way. Okay, you can see that it's just attached to the clear plastic, and I kind of pushed down with a ruler to flatten everything, so I think everything is making contact. But now I'm just going to let these puppies dry overnight, and then I'll cut them out, the outlines, with a sharp X-Acto, and then see if I can't start putting this sucker on. As I said, this one I'm going to go make a copy of, because if I screw this one up, that way I can try it again with another piece. But I don't know, this is so far looking at possibilities. Well, I apologize for sort of leaving you in the dust, but I did successfully put that front canopy piece on. It worked pretty well, and that was the one that basically it's either going to make or break everything. So once that's on, I think we're good. I put the edges on with super glue, which tacked it really well. This clear plastic is working great, and my paper that's put on with the contact cement has been fantastic. So once this piece is on, then I can figure out where everything else goes. But I think we're in pretty good shape. Yeah, I kind of forgot to put the sight in, but I'll be able to put it in. I didn't want to drill a hole in that canopy front anyway. I wanted to I'm going to make it in sort of two pieces. So that's going to be okay. I'm not worried about that. What we'll do is start working on this back part and start putting these pieces together. The next piece is this one. I've cut them apart, cut them out, edging, and on each of them I put a little tiny piece of nomenclature, that little arrow. I don't know if it's in focus or not. That lets me know that's forward, and it says number 2. So this is the second one in the series that's supposed to go in there, and it attaches right here, right along this edge. Kind of lines up with that panel line based on the directions. Now, one thing I had to do that I didn't know I had to do when I started forming this or testing this out was, see this little ridge thing here? This piece of paper, it forms like an L, a right angle, and I didn't even know it was supposed to go in there, and I put one on either side, and I think that's there. That's going to help us have an attachment point for our canopy windows. So what I'm going to do now is reconfigure the camera and everything and try to make it so I can actually show you putting these in. The plan will be to put this one in here, because that's the only solid one. That one and this one are sort of solid. They're connected to the airplane. Everything else slides. So we'll put this one in, and then we'll start playing around and posing them where we want them. I want to leave enough room so I can go back in here and finally make my seat belt for that guy. So I won't put the whole thing together, but I do want to make it so it's pretty open. Here are the directions, and you can see I want this to at least look like this. These all slide back. See, this is the main one, or this is the piece this is, I guess, this piece sliding back. But this piece is connected, and this piece is connected to the body. Everything else can move, supposedly, in real life. So I want to have this pulled, I want to have these gone way back. I want to have this part, this one slung back so you can see into the cockpit, the pilot's cockpit. And then I want these all forward and that little final rounded one so that you can see into the back interior. So let me kind of reconfigure, and we'll see if we can at least put one on and show you, and then and kind of go from there. I think super glue is going to work, but we'll see. So this is the first part that we're going to put on, and this part's going to be sort of stationary onto the body. And what I decided to do was sand the edges just a tiny bit, maybe so that the super glue will get better grip. So each of these that I put down, this one and then the next one, really, in the pattern, I just roughed up those parts just in case. And then to make sure this thing is in the right orientation, which it is. That plastic, by the way, is working great. It's really nice. It's easy to bend. You can even kind of bend it a little bit like paper. So it's coming together. So all I got to do is put a little glue on one side, and this is all just kind of delicate work. And it took a few times to get these right, believe it or not. I have a couple mistakes in here. I'll show you. I left them in on purpose. But this one is supposed to go on that little sill, and it's supposed to be right at the edge. Like I said, the forward part should be kind of in line with that panel line there. And there I hit it with a little bit of zip kicker. This is also hard to do because, again, I'm looking through this stupid light, and it's much easier to do when I practice without trying to film it. But anyway, and here I put on a little bit more glue, and on the other side, and now I'm going to bring this down and supposedly put it in place. And what I find out real fast is that I don't have it in the center. I have no place to glue. I keep trying to push it down, and then it kind of glues, but it kind of doesn't. And then I realize I got to take the other one off. And I was like, oh no. But I tinkered with it, played with it, dinked around, and off it came. So I didn't damage anything, luckily. Then I had a new plan. Take two. I decided to put a little mark right in the center of that rollover part, right there, the little tiny pencil mark. And that, I figured I'm going to start by putting the canopy there first. So I scratched up the canopy right where that's supposed to go, and then went ahead and did all that. Here's a little bit of glue going down, just a touch, just to get started. And in theory, I put that canopy right down there, initially. That should give me sort of an anchor point, and then I can just fold down the sides perfectly, right? At least that's the theory. So I put this down, and I'm very pleased because it glues quickly. It gets on there nice. I get it on. I don't smear the clear. I mean, everything's going swimmingly at this point. But, and it's a big but, I find out that, again, here I'm very courageously putting some glue on that edge of that sill, and I pull it down and attach it. And there, I attach it, I think, and but it's not sticking. And I realized, dang it, I'm still not right. I still got to move it over. So I very, very carefully took an X-Acto blade and put it underneath that tip. You can't see it because I'm intent on fixing it, and I didn't think about looking at the camera. But I just kind of cut through it, and I actually damaged a little piece of the paper, you can see, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be covered. So I was like, dang it, now I got to put it on again, but I'm going to slide it over by like a 0.5 millimeter or something. I don't need much to the left. So I put a little bit more glue on there, and I take the silly canopy again, and I put it on, and this time I slide it over just a little bit. This is kind of like shooting at the target range. You find out how far off you are, and then you go to one side. So in this case, I'm aiming to the left, and if I'm correct, I should be able now to fold that down, and it'll match, and I think it does. So here I'm putting in some glue on that sill, and I'm going ahead and tacking it down, making sure things are straight. So it's coming down vertically right along where it's supposed to. But I needed a little more glue. I think I was kind of delicate on the glue, and I didn't have it right where it actually touches. So right on the very edge. This is all very, it's tight tolerances. But this time I think it takes. There it is. Oh, I wet my pants right there. It actually is on there. So again, I hit this with a little bit of accelerator just to make sure. I don't know if that's necessary, but it holds it in place quickly. Because now I'm going to pull down the other side, put some glue on that, and bring it down. And this time I got it centered so that they both come down equivalently on the edges, and they hit the sills where they're supposed to. And I'm making sure those lines are straight and vertical. And there you go. Bob's your aunt. That looks good. So that part is on. So that took a while, but at least that's on. And that's the other part, other than the front, that's sort of solid onto the airplane. The rest are all going to be kind of clamshells that slide in or out, either over that piece or into the back by where the gunner is. So that's sweet. Those were two things that had to be anchored, and there they are. Life is good. So I go to the next piece, which is the piece in the front canopy, and I want to put that back far enough. I want it to look kind of realistic. I don't want it to be right in line with the other one. I want it to look like the guy pulled it back, and it doesn't have to be exactly perfect because it does roll along these little rails. And so as long as it's straight, it'll come out. It doesn't matter what it looks like. That looks pretty. I'm just checking to make sure it's actually equidistant again, and it is. So this time I actually I did a good job. So I'll come back. I added a little glue, and then I just roll it down and make sure it's horizontal and it hits that rail right like that. And there it is. looks pretty good. And all the time I'm trying to check this. Again, it's hard to do this when I'm trying to film it, but if you weren't filming it, it'd be easier because you could check and see, make sure everything is as square as you can. Now in this case, this thing should be over a little bit to the left. So I don't have it right. So what I ended up doing was cutting it off and fixing it one more time off camera. So there, that piece is on. It's actually centered and it looks good. Okay, so a lot of sort of, yep, there's that front piece on, and then there's those other two pieces. So now, off camera, I put in the next one that goes in the back. You see it's already in. And that one I just rolled it and slid it in there, and then I dabbed a little couple pieces of glue right along the edge towards the rear, just enough to anchor it, because you're not going to be playing with these. They're just going to sit in there. And so now that one is in. So that's a piece that the gunner would have slid forward, or I guess towards the front of the airplane. Okay, so that's slid in. And then the last piece is that little, I'll say, fun piece to put in. Turned out to not be so bad. It took a couple times to make it work, but I decided what I would do is I'm assuming that I'm making sure I'm going in the right direction. Forward is forward. Those little ears on the very tip, I'm assuming are hinged down by that other, by the previous little sliding piece. So what I'm doing is putting a little bit of glue right where they're supposed to go. So I'm assuming that they go about there, and then the equivalent on the other side. And I put a fairly good glob there because this is going to take a little bit to figure this out. And now with the tweezers, holding the tweezers, I basically put this in. I kind of squeeze the canopy piece together, like round like that, and then slide it in and let it spring out those tips onto the glue. And it's a kind of delicate process. See, I got one side kind of on there, the other side I missed. But if the one side has started, I can sort of tease this in and roll it in so that it contacts the glue. And there I was very unsuccessful. But you keep doing this, and this is the only way I can figure out how to do it. And I'm ruining the day when I added the gun and put bombs on there, and there's a propeller up there. I mean, it makes it all much more difficult. This should have been something I did long ago. Now there, I got it in, and then all I do is kind of make sure that it's even and I have it cocked the way I want it. So I wanted to make sure it was folding back a little more because I still got to put my seatbelt in, and I want to be able to see back there where the gunner is. But that looks pretty good. So all I'm doing here is just making sure that I'm getting glue contact and that it's kind of even. And it is. It's not bad. Here I'm just kind of making sure it's delicate operation because I wanted to pivot it just a little bit more. And now I'm really glad I did paint the opposite side of the frames that greenish interior color, because you'll definitely look up and see that sucker. So I'm glad I did that. That was genius on my part. A lot of kits, they have, like the Holinsky kits, they have a separate set of frames that goes on the inside. So anyway, there it is. Making sure it's where I want it, kind of squeezing it, making sure it's contacting the glue, and then as it dries, which it will, that tacky glue works great. There it is. And I like the nature of it being sort of folded back. I want it to be sort of relaxed. And you can still see in there, and there's the interior, and I can still get to my seatbelt when we make it. We got to make a seatbelt, a pitot tube, a couple other things, a sight, and we're done.